Hello, this is Dominic Majid and Janina Engels. In our Impact Beyond podcast, we are aiming to connect the members of ACM Western Europe and beyond.
Being part of a team and communicate amongst us is key and essential to be successful in a competitive environment. In our podcast, we would like to discuss our purpose, our values, our strategy, and our leadership culture and commitments to generate more speed, fun, and impact for our customers.
We invite all of you to collaborate and contribute to our podcast. We want to be inspired and challenged by you. And if we are successful, then we hope we can inspire you too. Impact Beyond. We make it happen.
Welcome to a new episode of our podcast. We would like to share today a totally new experience with you. We had an interview with Holger Schlageter. He's a psychologist having an own consultancy, which is working internationally in fields of assessment, training and coaching. And it was really a pleasure to meet him virtually. It was so interesting, really inspiring and also energizing. But I don't want to give away too much so that you can enjoy having that experience yourself. Hopefully you will like it, same as we did, but I'm pretty sure you will do.
Welcome to our Impact Beyond podcast. Today we are talking with Dr. Holger Schlageter, the founder and head of the Schlageter Institute, a psychological institute that develops leaders in business and politics globally. We are happy that you have accepted to be interviewed, Holger. May I ask you to introduce yourself?
How could I not accept, Dominic? It's a pleasure being here. Thanks. I'm a psychologist. I'm 47 years old. I studied psychology in Chicago. I'm German by descent, though, living in Germany, working in Germany. And my company is a consultancy that works for international clients such as Henkel, global players, and we work in the three fields of assessment, training, and coaching. So everything that organizational psychologists can do for organizations. I have a clinical background. So I did couples therapy, sexual dysfunction therapy, worked with individuals a lot in the 20 years ago. I'm getting old now. But now, for the last 20 years, as I said, I've been working in the field of assessment, training, coaching. Me personally, I predominantly do board coachings, C-level coachings, and the occasional training because I like to be in touch with people on that level too. So that's me.
That sounds very colorful. Thank you very much, Holger. But to also show up some more personal aspects of yourself.
Okay.
I would like to ask you three very simple questions.
Sure.
You prefer a steak or are you vegetarian?
I'm a vegetarian, leaning on vegan these days, actually. A big change for me 3 years ago for health reasons. And I must say, I'm enjoying it now, which I would have never thought.
Yeah, my daughters would resonate to that.
I know, that's what I get a lot. Yes, I know.
I still stick with the steak. Okay, good. You prefer rather sports or reading books?
Oh, definitely sports. I must say, I hate reading books. I did my PhD in human sciences. And after that, I vowed to myself that I'm not going to read any book anymore afterwards. And I've been true to that promise ever since. So I do read snippets. I do read studies, of course. If you call that a book, then I do. But that's it. I'm no longer a friend of books.
Okay, interesting.
I write books now, though. I've written 12 books. So maybe that helps too. To kind of I don't know. I prefer writing them over reading.
Yeah. I mean, in your profession, you are very busy with dealing with minds and personalities. So in your leisure time, then obviously you prefer some physical.
Well put. far more interesting. Reading the real thing than a derogative, actually. So all good.
Okay. Okay, last question in this context. You prefer success or purpose?
Huh. Is that an either or question?
No, of course it is.
Okay. Success or purpose? That's a tricky question.
I know.
I would say, I mean, you can tell I'm hesitant because I like both. If I had to choose, I would probably choose purpose, because I can live without success for a while. That's okay. I need it once in a while, but I can live for a long time without it. Even failure is livable, but purposelessness is terrible. I wouldn't want that. So I guess purpose is more important than success.
Okay, cool. Thank you for your openness in this context. Now we know a little bit more of you. But before we start with our dialogue, I have one last challenge for you. I would like you to complete the following 3 sentences.
Okay.
I have become a psychologist because
I appreciate people. And I genuinely like them when they open up. So I really see it as a great privilege to be trusted with the inner world and the intimate thoughts and processes, the secrets sometimes of individuals and also of organizations. So I really think I get to see reality differently in that position, more real and less presented. I really like that. It helps me a lot to understand reality.
Okay, thank you. Next sentence. The reason why I'm getting up in the morning is?
My alarm clock, I must say. That's the only reason.
How trivial.
I know. I'm totally not a morning person. I'm a night person. I could stay in bed till noon. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. But I have a little bit of discipline too. I'm luckily, so I do get up early, but I don't like it.
Okay. Interesting. And the last one, impact beyond means to me.
Well, it's a great way, I think, of interesting people in leaving their comfort zone and in really raising the interest of wanting to do it rather than saying you have to and pushing. And it's an invitation to look over the rim of your own teacup and just see there's so much more out there, and that's inspiring. That's exciting, I think. So it's a great thing.
Good, thank you. Thank you very much, Holger, for answering those first questions.
You're welcome.
So now I'm happy to answer some questions that you might have.
Absolutely, and I'd be very happy to ask them. Now, I mean, the idea behind that is that I get asked a lot of questions these days as a psychologist, but I think it could be interesting to turn the tables around. So that's what we're doing. So Dominik, you are a Henkel leader. How important do you think leadership is in times like these?
Oh, very important. I think this is the time for leaders. And I would phrase it like in other relationships that you have personally with your friends or your spouse or your kids. Now you see really who you can count on. It's all about trust, about empathy and reliability. And this is how people look to leaders. So very important time for leaders now to show up and come across with those values.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense now. I mean, leader is a generic term almost. And I guess we're both thinking of good leaders, of outstanding leaders. How would you define the difference? What would you say is an outstanding leader? What signifies that as opposed to a mediocre or a normal or a average leader?
I think that is very simple to answer. I think an outstanding, a great leader is somebody who is not asking what his people are doing for him, but rather what he can do for his people or what she can do for his people or her people. So yeah, and that very much resonates with my own values. So if you ask me what I'm happy with, I'm always happy if I can help people grow.
Nice. I mean, that's very parallel to my profession, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe. My mother was a parent. My father, my mother was not a parent, but a teacher. Sorry for that. And my father was also teaching at the university. So maybe I have got some input from that.
Very nice. I think it's a great way to look at it, and yeah, wonderful. So I guess you're leaning towards purpose also in terms of success versus purpose.
Absolutely. That's
Okay, good.
which does not mean I do not want to be successful. That's clear. But purpose is something that's really inspiring me. But when it comes to success, I sometimes enjoy more if I see people succeeding and not so much myself.
Right, makes sense. Yeah, great. Now, I mean, let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is Corona, COVID-19. It's on everybody's minds these days. What was your first thought today in that crisis, if you will? First thought today when you woke up?
Well, I also wake up by the alarm clock, but at the current stage, I have developed my own daily routine, and that is very early in the morning. I'm getting up and go for a run. So being in the wood for roughly 45 minutes, that's really what makes my day. And as such, I try to not to get distracted too much because I cannot change the current situation. It is as it is. But I make sure that I care for myself, for my beloved ones, and then, of course, professionally for my team, for my colleagues, and not to forget my supervisor.
Okay, great. So, I mean, thoughts are one thing, but thoughts lead to actions. So, how do you think? How do you see people differently in terms of acting? How do they act differently in times like these in your surroundings? What do you see?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I think this social isolation thing is new to all of us. Nobody likely has experienced that apart from prisoners.
Yeah.
And I think what we are currently learning is that going digital for most of our working related topics is something that obviously is easier or more valuable than we thought before. I think what we learn also is that how we can get connected with each other without the physical contact. But I also think that this needs time. Everybody needs to get familiar with it. But I see good progress in the team.
Great. That's nice to hear. So it doesn't turn out all the worst in people, you'd say? Is there any good that's coming out in terms of changed behavior?
Absolutely. I mean, of course, each and everyone, and I think that applies to all of us, is under a very stressy situation. For sure, this is not a surprise. And of course, it attracts a lot of tension and challenges in your family environment, right? You are living together with your beloved ones, but you have very few opportunities to get your own time sometimes, right?
Yes.
And to get separate from others, and you cannot see maybe your parents, which is in most cases the case.
Yeah.
You cannot see your friends or your colleagues, and that, of course, can create a lot of tension and also negative things.
Yeah.
But we try everything from our. I mean, I'm not talking personal, but rather business. We try everything to help our people to get through this time.
Good. That's my impression too. I think Henkel is doing a tremendous job right now. In crisis now, usually you have two groups of people. One group that reacts with more fear than before, and others with more hope than before. So in the fear-hope spectrum, where are yourself? Where are you?
Well, personally, I'm more in the hope section. I think as I said before, it is something that I cannot change at the moment. Of course, it's pretty annoying to see in the media what happens in Italy, in Spain, of course, also in Germany. But if, as I said, if you care for yourself, then you try to isolate yourself, right, as much as possible. And that helps you not to get infected, but also not to infect others. And that is something that I think is a very hopeful thing, because it reminds all of us what solidarity means. Because it's not so much about ourselves only, of course, we need to care for ourselves, but more so we need to care for those ones who are weak in this situation. So the elder ones, the sick ones, people who are belonging to those so-called risk groups. And I think that's a very nice example that society can really stick together and work together if there is a real need for it. And I think maybe somehow we were missing that in the last couple of years.
Yeah. So how are you, I mean, we talked about you being a leader. How are you trying to move people from fear to hope? How are you influencing the system in a positive way, and maybe what are the concise measures that you're taking?
And I think I can summarize that in 3 different dimensions. The first one is, again, I might repeat myself, but the caring. So what we always say to our people is first, and in this same order, please care for yourself, then for your family, then for your colleagues, and then for your customers. And Kurosh, who is my boss, compared that with the safety instruction routine before you start a flight. So you are instructed when oxygen is getting low, that you take the mask first for yourself before you help your kid.
Very clever, very wise.
Yeah. The intuitive reaction likely is you care for the kid first, but it doesn't help the kid if you lose your consciousness. So for this reason, you need to start with with yourself first. And this is a good analogy in my view.
So stay strong, stay resilient, stay balanced as much as you can.
Exactly.
Great.
Exactly. Then we help our people with daily routines. So we start the day with a virtual coffee break of 15 minutes. Early in the morning, everybody can dial in. There's no agenda or anything. We just chat like in a coffee corner.
Every day?
Every day.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. And how are people reacting to that? Do you have attendees or?
We have sometimes maybe 20 people in the call.
Cool.
Sometimes you have only 7 or 8. And not everybody is talking, of course. So there are some people who simply come to listen, and others talk.
Cool.
Like in a coffee corner.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah. And then afterwards, we continue the day with a team call where the supervisors call their team together, and they talk about the day and what they want to do. Then everybody goes his individual path by having meetings, by having customer calls, managing processes that we currently run. And then we also have frequently so-called Corona updates, so where we get together, not only inform people about the latest development, but also share concerns. We share best practices, how we deal with new situations, this kind of exchange. And that really helps everybody to better manage the situation.
Nice.
And then sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
And then the third point I wanted to mention is basically the management of the crisis. So we undertake everything to make sure that our supply chain works. We help our customers to upskill. So we are offering them an extended set of virtual trainings. And last not least, of course, we help our customers to survive wherever we can. So, for instance, we have just agreed with one of our bigger distributors that we both jointly manage the inventories on his side, so that he's not building up too high inventories in the current environment.
Very, very concise. And I think you're demonstrating that you're not falling into paralysis, but quite to the contrary. Good measures. You're handling the situation. And I think that's psychologically extremely important to give people the feeling that something is done and something can be done to tackle this. That's almost half of it in terms of managing the crisis. That's wonderful. It's more than that. Cool.
Nice to hear that from a psychologist. Thank you.
Sure. So, I mean, isn't it ironic? And we're coming to the close of my section here, but isn't it ironic that in the whole digitalization change of the last 2-3 years, everybody had been calling out for disruptions. We need disruptions, and now we're getting the mother of all disruptions, and I think it does have an effect on digitalization also, but what good do you think will this disruption bring after it's over? What do you think?
Yeah, and I think I answer this question particularly from the view of somebody who is leading people in Henkel.
Mm-hmm.
So we are not working in a digital startup or something where you have only digital natives, and for them digital is something which is completely normal.
Yeah.
No, we are working in a very old, traditional, in a positive sense, traditional family business, big company that has survived the disruptions of the last 140 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure this company will be able to survive the next 140 years. But of course, for such a big organization, being of this age and tradition, it's more of a challenge to move people to digital. And I think the positive thing at the moment is that everybody in Henkel really understands what the value of digital is.
Yeah.
Digital at the moment is the only opportunity for us to stay in touch, to drive our business, to actively sell virtually to our customers, which we normally do physically.
And it works. Isn't that amazing? I mean, it works so well.
Absolutely.
Great.
We see daily progress with those who are doing difficult digital, because they might be more aged, or they might not be the most digital mindsets, but they are day by day improving. And clearly, I can say that our future is digital, but our future is now.
Yeah, and that's become quite a statement now. Because it's real, it's not only a claim. It's something that we can see happening, which is amazing. Now, my last question would be centering around visions, because that's another thing that leaders are expected to have. Dreams and visions are beacons of light for the soul, in business and in life. So what's your vision of the world after Corona? What do you envision the world to be like then? Anything different? Anything better? Anything worse? What's your dream vision of what that's going to be?
Well, I think as such, and I'm not talking particularly about our own area of responsibility, because I think that is something that really has impact on the entire society and on everybody in Henkel if we look at the work-life environment. I think the collaboration part will sustainably improve and increase. because people in this crisis now really experience it every day, how important it is to really stay together and collaborate. I take sometimes this analogy of you are driving your car in winter time and it's snowing and you move the car into a ditch, right? And by no means you would think you can on your own and alone get the car out of the ditch, right? So you will stop other people coming around and you will ask them for help. And maybe you are also calling the urgency line or whatever to get out, but you will ask others to help you. Ironically, in business, if a big challenge comes to us, we often try to jump to an idea of a solution, and then we try to solve the issue, and before we even think about asking for help, right? And maybe that is forced by your environment because people might have other priorities and they don't want to help you. Or maybe you are in a situation where you have a supervisor who is not really listening to you. And I don't mean particular people. All I say is that these reasons lead us to the point where we try to do things alone. And coming back to the future or the vision for the future, collaboration is something that simply works much better, right? And gets us much better results and much more sustainable results. And this is something that I fundamentally believe will change. People will much more get in touch with each other because now they need to. And it will become a habit, it will become a routine. And I hope that people will continue to collaborate much more than in the past.
So the routine to collaborate, that's wonderful. That's a great close, I'd say. Thanks for your very reflected answers. I learned a lot about you, about about leadership, and it's quite reassuring to know that at Henkel there's leaders like yourself in positions that are important right now. Not that non-leaders are not equally as important, but leadership, I think, is a specific way of being in this. So thanks for your great answers. Now I'm all open for yours.
Okay.
And let's hand over, I'd say.
Yeah, thank you very much. And really appreciate it to answer your questions. Don't know whether they were the answers that you expected, but happy to have shared them with you. And let's come to the questions I have into your direction. And I mean, apart from being a psychologist, you are also a businessman, right? So how are you dealing with Corona as a company, and how do you care about your people?
I must say, as a company, we're in a pretty good state. I mean, first of all, 20 years ago, when I founded Schlageter Institute, my first goal really was to make sure that we have a cash flow that is such that we can weather at least 3 months of no income, because this field is very volatile. It's always been, not only since the VUCA world has started, but it has always been very volatile. It could always happen that clients withdraw, and they did, say, in the crisis of 2008, for example, from one day to another, all our trainings globally were canceled. That was probably the most drastic crisis that we've experienced. In the end, we found out that in crises, our income is actually better, which is ironic, because I think people feel that they need more consulting support, psychological support in crisis. We can definitely see that in the numbers. So right now what's happening is that the same thing happening. Trainings have been canceled globally, obviously, but everything now is moving to digitalization. So we don't right now, after 3-4 weeks of crisis, we don't really see any drops. We could, though, because the 3 months have been course, in 20 years, been upped to 1 year now. So we're safe. We're safe. We're good, and it looks like there's enough work for us to do. So I'm quite relaxed in terms of that.
Okay, and your people, I mean, are they concerned? Do they look positively or negatively into the future?
Well, I think, I mean, what they told me is that it's been good for them to hear that their salaries are safe, that their jobs are safe. We are now doing a lot of conceptual work, which we haven't been able to do a lot because there's been so much work to do. So now we have more time to sit and think and, for example, develop some video trainings now. We're shooting videos and writing scripts and all that, all in the direction of digitalization. Also, all the coachings are continuing now on Skype or Zoom or whatever. So whatever is out there, that's continuing. So we pretty much have not business as usual. That'd be wrong, but there's business going on. So there's work. So business-wise, people I think are very safe, feel secure, and all that. Now, privately, of course, that's a different story. I mean, everybody I think is alarmed. Everybody's trying, as you said yourself, is trying to make sure that their loved ones are safe, that they themselves stay safe, and then everybody's waiting for what's happening. It's an unknown situation. We have to look, go step by step and just react every time anew, if you will. So yes, but it's been good, I must say. Everything's working, everything's functioning. We work together as a team very well. Same as you say, collaboration is really good. But I think in times of crisis, you don't develop. You more get the results of what you've developed before the crisis.
Oh yes.
And that's quite reassuring.
Yeah. And coming back to this, how people personally behave or what their concerns are. So what are the most observed behaviors that you see in the current situation of people?
I want to say three things. And it's interesting because I do a lot of interviews, TV and radio as a psychological expert. That question is asked all the time, and I think it's quite valid and quite important. So three things. One I would see is solidarity. Crises like these turn out the best in people. And you see a really spiking increase in solidarity. People come together, people realize we're a community. We get, like you said in your example of the accident by the side of the road, right? You realize this is a situation that I cannot do on my own. I need others, and I want to be part of that social network. So solidarity is on the rise, and I see that, by the way, with all our clients. Henkel, for example, prime example of solidarity. Disinfect. I mean, you donate disinfectants, you produce disinfectants, you donate them to people who need it, to societies. That's amazing. Lufthansa, another client, they're flying out stuff. They're organizing, medical equipment trips, face masks, all of that. They get that. They donate their planes basically. Merck or other pharmaceutical clients that we have, they donate medication. They specifically produce them for that crisis. I think that's amazing. That's wonderful, and that's great to see. So the second point, it's not so great to see is psychologically, phobia and paranoia are on the rise too. So what was formerly carefulness, which is healthy, has oftentimes now become phobia, where people are fearful for nothing. Basically, the triggers are very small, and people kind of the fear flares up. So that it's very touchy right now, the psyche of society, of people. And also paranoia. People, what was critical thinking before, which is also healthy and important, now oftentimes becomes paranoia. So we see a rise of, like, a move from normalcy, from normal to kind of worthy of therapy, right? And the third point is that's a brilliant, beautiful one is reintroduction of meaningful relationships. People are they're remembering where the real stability lies, and it's in relationships. It's in good relationships, close relationships, and people. That's why I think social distancing is the wrong word. It should be called physical distancing, because we're not socially distancing us from each other, but it's physical, yes, but really it's more social closeness that is now happening through digitalization, for example. I mean, that's a great enabler right now. So
I never thought of that, but you are right. It's not a social distance or isolation; it's a physical one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you agree. So that's so those three things: solidarity, phobias, and reintroduction to meaningful relationships. And overall, I think it's more positive than negative.
This physical and social thing, that reminds me of my daughter, who last weekend spent 1.5 hours with my father-in-law on the phone.
Awesome.
To make him install Skype. And we had the first Skype call this week, and you cannot imagine how proud he was,
Right. And do you think that would have ever happened before Corona? That's wonderful. Great.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, we are all sitting in home offices. I understand you do the same. Anything that you would recommend with regard to working from home?
A few things. I mean, one is structure your day. Don't just let it happen, because a day goes really fast if you don't structure it, and also you kind of lose your orientation over time. So structure it, have maybe a little more, more loose structure than you used to have in the office, but structure it nevertheless. Get up at a certain time, go to bed at a certain time, keep your routines. Second is create distance and allow distance. You mentioned it before, how tough it is to be close to people all the time, and I'm not used to that closeness. I might be used to the people, but not to the closeness. So allow each other to have space, to not talk, to be in different rooms, to maybe for hours do your own thing. I think that's really important. Physical exercise, yes, great. Fresh air, sunlight, open the windows if you can't go out, but at least get some fresh air. Try to get some sunlight that's healthy. And then my favorite, do not read social media. Listen to the news once a day, and that's it. Nothing's going to change from today to tomorrow. It's still Corona, it's still COVID-19, and it's still lockdown. So unless the lockdown's lifted, you will hear that once a day, the news. That's all you need. So that's it.
Thank you for these insights and very valuable tips. I will follow them up.
Great. I'm trying myself. We're all in this together.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I mean, you asked me the question, and of course I need to ask you the question as well. So there will be a time after Corona, right?
Yeah.
And how do you think will this change our working environment, and especially from your psychologist point of view, what will be the key positive outcome of it?
I mean, to be honest, I think that will unless it lasts for a year now, that will change things more dramatically, I think. But if we talk about a few months, then I think it'll go pretty much back to normal. People will have a high need to be in touch, physically, literally in touch with people, get together, and just re-enter the normalcy that they know and still remember. I think that home office will be easier to implement. That will be less of a question now. I think less resistance against that, because people have just realized it's working, and nothing bad has happened. And then I think digitalization will be one step further in acceptance. Skype or video conferencing, telephone conferencing. By the way, before Corona, for 10 years, we've offered Skype coachings, but mostly people would not want that because they were under the impression that being there face to face has an added value. And while it might have a little bit of an added value, which I don't know what it would be, because I still can't touch you in coaching, and it's pretty much the same as in sitting in front of the screen. I think that the acceptance of that tool also for meetings, for business meetings, is just has risen because, again, people have realized it's working and there's no dramatic loss. I think there might be less travels because we realize we don't need as much. And hopefully overall a even healthier form of globalization. I think globalization still is the future. But maybe we kind of cut out a little bit of the unhealthy parts of it. And people will wash their hands more often. That's also good for Henkel.
Oh, yes. Okay. Holger, thank you so much. Thank you for the time that you spent with me, for our audience. Thank you for giving all these very valuable insights. Yeah, and thank you for being also interested on how we manage the crisis. So this is really appreciated. Thank you very much.
It's been a great pleasure. Thank you, Dominic.
This was an episode of the Impact Beyond podcast. In order to continuously learn and grow for our next episodes, we are glad to hear from you. So please feel free to like or comment our podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Impact Beyond podcast.